the consequences of the way in which political media work in America is that anything that's considered to the left of the traditional liberal Democratic Party is considered, oh my God, oh, the socialists, leftists,
right?
Marxists, oh, they want to tear that. I mean, people don't realize that, like, you know, Martin Luther King was talking about democratic socialism before he died. He used to, you know, people, you know, there were lots of people. Eugene Debs was talking about trying to find a way to improve the quality of life for poor and working class people. All of these quote unquote horrible socialists were not walking around with hammers and sickles talking about we need to draw blood and send people to the communes. They were talking about trying to create a way in which we can actually challenge the lords of capital to actually find a way to increase the quality of life for the majority of Americans and American society. And there is a long history of American socialism that was really rooted in trying to actually improve the conditions of life for the left, those particularly working class people, particularly union workers. But depending on the environment you're in, you say those words, you're like, oh, you want to support the Cubans, you know, particularly in a place like South Florida, where we have a lot of very reactionary politics when it comes to the S word. It gets people very, very turned off and alarmed and terrified and all kinds of other things.
But I also see this as, and we're speaking with Pascal Robert of the This Is Revolution podcast. I really think that when it comes to why the Democratic Party in particular doesn't act in earnest when it comes to, you know, supporting policies that are very necessary, especially right now, not just because of how hyperpartisan the divide really is, but because there is such inequality in society. And I often wonder if that has a lot to do with the hammerlock that the Democratic Party has on the black vote and the fact that they just assume, well, they're just going to vote for us anyway. We really don't have to give them anything. And because this has become such a political arena that is completely dominated by corporate money, their attitude is, well, they don't really have a lot of money to give us anyway, so we're not going to adhere to what they want. We're just going to follow what our corporate donors want. And the second anyone comes along, like a Bernie Sanders, who espouses this idea that corporate special interests dominating our political arena is not a good thing, and it's treated as heresy, but there's a lot of people who have been hearing it for the past several years who are thinking, yeah, maybe that, you know, social democracy really is what we need right now. It's just a question of, do we have it in us to really stand up and fight for that, whether it's within the party or, dare I say, even outside of the party at this point?
That's a really great question. I really like the way you framed that, because there is a long history we've had of the Democratic Party misusing or abusing black voters. And one of the realities it is that we have a phenomenon, we have an institutional mechanism within the Democratic Party that I've written about called the black political class. What is the black political class? The black political class are the traditional elected officials, political civil rights organizations, black churches, historically black colleges and universities, and institutional mechanisms that corral black voter participation into the more conservative corporate wing of the Democratic Party in exchange for patronage from that sector to maintain fealty of that sector to those forces. A perfect example of someone like that would be someone like James Clyburn, who constantly uses his power to basically wield it to get black voters in the South Carolina primary to neutralize the most progressive or left alternative in that primary and channel votes into the more corporate-friendly, Democratic, DNC-friendly candidate in the Democratic Party. And this is a problem that we have all over the country. There are iterations of the black political class everywhere, and they are connected in their attempt to make sure that they neutralize the progressive left and find a way to constrain their capacity to effectively get out a message that challenges the status quo of the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. And it's something that I don't think is discussed enough, because it's such an institutionally sacrosanct part of how the Democratic Party and Democratic politics works, that to try to puncture the ideological superstructure that they have over black politics is considered a threat to so many institutions that people don't want to go there. And I think for me, it's something that has to be done, or else you're going to maintain having the same kind of stale, corporate-friendly politics that we've both already evidenced is the core root of the problem.
Yeah, they do a good job, though. Like, they do a really good job of corralling, especially older black women, and really maintaining their hold, like almost like do or die on this, and that group of people. And it's incredibly frustrating because they just are so not real. It's very hard to get into that when you've got, like, for example, our congresswoman buys the pastors. Like, she makes donations to each congregation and she buys the pastors, and then they shepherd the vote. And
so you guys have seen how the Black political class works up front.
Oh yeah. And what's unfortunate is that people like me would appeal way more when you talk about, like, the people that are what my friend calls the streets, and the people that are the working people. But unfortunately, those aren't the people that vote in the Black community. The people that vote are this Black political class. And
right.
that is who's sort of setting the whole tone for the Black vote, especially down here. I mean, I'm sure it's different per region, but, like, we had Marcel.
It's the same. It's a consistent theme.
Yeah, we had Marcel on. Dixon was on our show twice when you were talking about the progressive running against James Clyburn.
Wow. I did not know that. Yeah. No, this is a persistent problem that we've been seeing throughout the country. The infrastructure of the Black political class is something that's developed over a 50-year period that comes out of the Gary, Indiana convention that started in 1972. That was a Black political convention that was trying to chart out the future of where Black politics was going to go after the civil rights movement. And what ends up happening is that those who were more conservative in their vision take over as the bellwether in terms of controlling the direction of Black politics, and they start to chart out this method of using electoral politics to basically fulfill their own patronage positions, i.e. like the churches you're talking about, as opposed to actually fulfilling the actual needs of their constituency. So Black politics becomes a kind of cartel-like politics. It's a cartel politics where you have people who are feigning racial authenticity to gain support of these constituencies, but in reality, their actual allegiance are to the same corporate forces that are doling out that patronage that's subsidizing their political behavior.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.